from Garland. How has being in such iconic culture-defining movies impacted your life?
Garland makes me feel 175 years old.
Welcome, friends and fans, to another episode of GalaxyCon Live, where we are bringing the convention experience directly to you. And today, we are going down the holiday road by way of the Dead Zone while stopping at the Breakfast Club for some weird science and more with today's amazing guest. So without further ado, our guest today is an actor whose fantastic body of work includes The Pirates of Silicon Valley, 6 Degrees of Separation, The Dead Zone, and so much more. Please welcome Mr. Anthony Michael Hall.
Hey, guys. How are you? We're all here virtually.
Yes, indeed we are. Hey.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us here today. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Doing great. I'm at home here in Los Angeles. Things are looking good. Like everybody, I'm very happy to see the good signs of movement in our economy and our country. Things are moving ahead. So thank God, right? We're all
absolutely. We can see the horizon. Finally, we can see the horizon. We're not there yet, but we can see it. We're heading towards it, and that's the optimism I'm clinging to.
That's right. Got to be safe and do the right things, but we're all glad it's a new year. So thank God, right?
Absolutely, indeed. That's a cool. I've never seen that Godfather poster before. I like that one.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah, New York years ago. Yeah, it's a Russian version of the Godfather.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and it's cool. And it says at the bottom, "The Godfather, my father is no different than any other powerful man." Cool. I love the movie posters. I got a few. I got James Bond here, and I got Steve McQueen and Bullied. Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, you have good taste. Spasiba, as the Russians would say. So. Indeed. So, first of all, thank you for joining us here today. As always, Michael, we are absolutely looking forward to the day when we can host you on our physical stages and get you back in front of your fans. In the meantime, though, we have the GalaxyCon virtual stage. So glad to have you. Our team is going through the chat room right now, pulling out the questions. In the meantime, I just always throw this out whenever I have a solo guest. What pulled you into acting?
Well, that's interesting. You know, I grew up in New York City, and I often think that was a great lead-in for me. My mother was a single mom, and I think although I was born in Boston, just having an upbringing in New York, I saw everything that was possible. I was exposed to so much culture and great art and museums and great music, all kinds of stuff. So I think that really affected my outlook as a kid. And then it was kind of like a hobby. You know, I started out auditioning for commercials and doing that kind of stuff as a kid after school when I was really young, in grade school.
Did a honeycomb commercial was your first gig?
Yeah, I did a few, man. I paid my way through high school. So you know, it really was a hobby. Like many people, you know, there was no great plan. I really stumbled into it, and I just kept working at it. You know, so that was how it happened.
Indeed, fair to say that that vacation was one that really kind of literally leveled you up.
Yeah, no, that was an incredible experience. 1983, that was just a classic film. You know, and I was one of those kids growing up. I mean, I'm 52, so like in the 70s, I was watching all that stuff, everything from the original SNL to all those great films, Caddyshack and Animal House. So, I mean, I just admired and looked up to all those people. So suddenly, as a 14-year-old kid, I was on the set with Chevy and John Candy and all these people. And it was just really, truly a life-changing experience, you know, because I love them all, you know. So it was a great, incredible thing to work with them as a kid.
And Beverly never gets enough credit, I think, for those films.
She's great. Yeah.
She's
got a great sense of humor.
Absolutely. So that definitely hit the ground running. And there's nothing I could ask you about the John Hughes years and everything else. But I will say this much. You've worked with some amazing directors. Some of my favorites, John Hughes, Tim Burton. You also worked with Billy Crystal, a filmmaker who I wish made more films. And I just found out about this recently. As Whitey Ford at 61 and had an interesting costume challenge. Could you share that story?
Sure. Well, I made that film back in 1999, and you're right. I mean, Billy's an incredible artist, right? Stand-up comic, director, producer. He's done so much great work in his life. So that was a great project to be a part of. We shot in Detroit, and growing up, I was a Yankee fan. I was a kid that grew up in the city, so I'd go to Yankee games, and it was just a dream come true. So what happened was Whitey Ford was a lefty, and I'm a righty. So basically, they gave me a backwards uniform, and they were able to then flip negative when they shot it. So when I was on the mound pitching the film, that's when we were able to do that. But that was one of the best experiences of my life in terms of the camaraderie with the guys that we worked with. And just to see Billy work his ass off, he was incredible. He was such a generous guy. He was super cool, always with the crew and the cast, but also just people that were able to work on the film, people that did background work and extra work, and just a great guy, a family guy, down to earth, and loves making people laugh. You know, he's really, not all comedians are like that. Some comedians, when they're off stage, you know how it is, they're not always raring to go. But Billy, I just learned so much from him all those years ago working with him, and like yourself, I agree. He's a great director. Really
yeah. On the set, did you guys commensurate at all about your SNL years?
No, I didn't. I didn't really bug him about that, but he was incredible because when we would shoot these stadiums, we shot at Detroit in Tiger Stadium and also in LA here at the Rose Bowl. We doubled ballparks there. And he would do like warm up. He was like literally like a warm up comedian. Like if you go to a sitcom, you see a comic, warming up the audience.
Sure.
Well, he was incredible. He just wore many hats, and he just had such a love and a passion for the game. We had a lot of the real players show up. Yogi Berra, Mickey Mantle's widow, and two of his sons who I became friends with. So just one of those great experiences in my career. It really was.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And again, I mentioned this in your intro. Part of Silicon Valley. What was it like what compelled your interpretation of the character? Is to sort of say an important character in modern history, to say the least.
Yeah, I remember when I did the audition, I remember I had the glasses, I did the Bill Gates comb over, and I just knew that he kind of sounded like Kermit the Frog, right? As we all know. So
yeah.
To be very honest, I had a great respect for his level of success and his tenacity. I read everything I could. I read a couple of biographies that were out in the market then. I read his book, which was called Overdrive. Business at the Speed of Thought, a bunch of books about Gates. And I tried to get into his head just in terms of his behaviors, and there were a lot of things that I picked up and learned from him. It was incredible. And I had a great coach too I worked with, a guy named Steve Bridgewater, who's a great coach. He works with Brad Pitt and he works with Johnny Depp and a lot of great people. He's a writer, director, and an actor. And he was a great coach. I worked with Steve for about a month on Bill Gates and broke it down with him from the voice to the everything. So great experience, that film. Really
and there's certainly, first of all, a fantastic job with that. And yeah, you're right. Because he sounds like Kermit the Frog, it's easy when someone has mannerisms like that, it's easy to fall into caricature as opposed to a performance.
Sure.
And you did it, same as Whitey Ford and everything else. So you really, I really appreciate the efforts.
Well, I'll let all the Galaxy fans know this is really cool. It's actually a really funny story. One of the things that Steve did is in one of our work sessions, he brought one of his wife's tampons to the session, and he pulls it out in front of the meeting, and he pulls out a pair of scissors. He starts cutting it up. And I'm going, where the hell is he going with this? What we figured out, this is really funny. He goes, he cut a little piece of the tampon out of his wife's lady product, and I actually put it in my nose, and it was a way to kind of get that nasally voice going for Gates, So
right,
we know it works. Sometimes you're sticking cotton up your nose. You never know what the hell it's going to take, But he was really instrumental because that was the first time as an actor where he really helped me set goals. It was almost like, a coach in sports. He was really helping me really define what my mission was for the project and to make decisions as an actor, which I think was really cool because I knew I had a big task at hand to play Gates. But that was a long time ago.
Yeah. So how did Batman come about? Your role as the newscaster and the little web segments.
Yeah, this was a trip. I was doing the Dead Zone. I was really riding high. I thought had a great experience on that. I was living and working up in Vancouver, which I love Canada, and I got the call from my reps, and they said, this audition came up. So I auditioned for Chris and his wife Emma, and I actually read for another role in the film. And then what happened was they saw something in me, and then Chris said, why don't you take this part and go look at this? And then I came back, later that day, and it was the newscaster. So, despite being such a small part in that film, that's a great lesson, about the no small parts, only small actors. I was so happy to be a part of that, even though I'm in the background of a scene on the television, Christian Bale's talking to Michael Caine. But honestly, the experience of it, I just had a couple of scenes. Working with Heath was incredible. Working with heroes of mine like Gary Oldman. Everybody, Maggie Gyllenhaal, just such a great cast. So those, that like 61, there have been certain experiences in my career where really the experience of it is such a big thing. You're thrilled about it, And I was like a kid about that because that was my.
Uh-oh, he's frozen. He's frozen. Let's hope he comes back.
That was my dude, Ron.
Okay.
There we go. All right, good. Sorry about that. No, I was saying as a kid, I loved the Batman TV show, and that was really, that used to flip me out. So for me, it was like a major thing to be a part of The Dark Knight. And it was one of those things too, that after I did the audition the second time, I think I waited about 2 or 3 months. It was such a big movie. It took everybody, a couple months just, I think, at Warner Brothers to go through all the tapes,
Yeah.
But just really excited to be a part of that. I'm still honored that I was, a small part of that film.
And you mentioned Dead Zone, of course. We got spend a little time about that. How did Dead Zone come about, and what a great ride it must have been.
It really was. Thank you for that. Yeah. Well, we did the show. I did the pilot back in, I think, 2000 or 2000, around there. And, I owe a great debt of gratitude, very, very honestly, to Michael Piller, who's the gentleman who produced the show. And he had created Deep Space Nine and Voyager. Yes. He was just a legend in television, as you well know. And he gave me the opportunity. I think he saw me doing the Dead Zone, but it was actually, I think, the Bill Gates film that I did with Noel Wiley when he played Jobs and I played Gates prior to Silicon Valley, that got his attention too. And it was just that rare thing where he sought me out and he wanted me to play, the Chris Walken role, the Johnny Smith thing. So that was a huge opportunity, obviously. And I was really, and a very welcomed bit of success too at that time in my life, because I was in my late 20s. And quite honestly, I had really struggled through my 20s, after the early work as a teenager to stay in the game, stay busy. So I was always grateful for that show. It was a great opportunity.
Absolutely. And because the movie is yet to come out, I'll just say this. I won't hold you to an answer, but I am very excited to see what your contribution is going to be to the Halloween franchise. Oh,
buddy, thank you, man. Me too. I can't wait. Honestly, I've never been more, not since The Dark Knight, I've been so flipped out about being in a movie. I was really pumped up to do that, And David Gordon Green, I got to say, he was really cool. I did a screen test about 2 years ago because, as you know, they had to hold the movie off for a year because of COVID.
Yeah.
But I did a screen test for he and Danny McBride. And then, I was fortunate enough to get to meet David in that same week. So I had a nice meeting with him. And then I just did a screen test. And I got to tell you, I'm so pumped up about that film. It was really a great experience. He actually, I found, had a lot of John Hughes qualities too. And when I worked with him, I thought he was a great guy to collaborate with. Really super down to earth and really cool.
Right on.
And apparently everybody's raving about it. Jason Blum at Blumhouse and John Carpenter, everybody's saying it's great. So I can't wait to see it.
Well, hopefully this all goes well and you can come back when it comes out. We could talk about it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. And Jamie, awesome. What a great lady she was too, man. Very cool.
Oh, absolutely. So our team let me know we're good to go on our audience questions. So let's go over and shift over to that. And thank you for indulging mine. All right. Our first one come from Matthew. Have you ever taken your family to Six Flags and reminisced about Wally World?
Hey, Matt, thanks for your question. That's a great memory because back in the day when we shot that, we couldn't actually use Disneyland. So the joke was we couldn't call Wally World Disneyland for obvious reasons, right? So we kind of piecemealed it. We shot some of it. The parking lot was Santa Anita Racetrack when we're running up at the front. And when we got to the gate, it's actually Six Flags. Yeah, and that was a great experience. And that was the first time I met John Candy that day too, who was just, that guy was the greatest. He really was. Everybody loved John Candy, Awesome.
Yeah, I've never heard a bad thing about it. Everybody just loved him and missed him.
Yeah, and loved to make people laugh too. He was awesome. So thanks for your question, Matt. I'm due back at Six Flags, man. I think it's opening up this summer. I'm coming back.
Very good. Matthew, thank you. Great one to start us off with. And our next one comes from Erica. What was that really a beer you chugged at vacation? Or what was it that you drank?
Yeah, good question. Well, here's the answer to that. When you watch credits of a movie and you go, what's a grip? What's an electric? What's a best boy? It's actually an effect that they did. We call it, what is it? Well, it's sound replacement, but basically, I think what they did is they added that sound in post. It was an empty can. Yeah. We were out there in Monument Valley. It was about 125 degrees that day in 1983. And it's called Foley. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I'm getting old, guys. I lost the word. So Foley, the Foley group is actually, if they need a horse, they got a guy in the studio using coconuts to make the. So with that, they added the sound. It was an empty can. And Chevy did just walk about a mile after the scene when he leaves.
Fair enough. All right, Erica, thank you. Fun one.
Thanks, Erica.
What do we have next? From Dylan, do you have any advice for actors to be?
Thanks for your question, Dylan. Okay, well, the first thing I say, to a lot of people who ask me this over the years is it's great, first of all, if you can get involved in school, if you're into drama, if you're into, learning at the school level, I think that's fantastic. There's also a lot of great books you can read. You can go to Barnes & Noble, you can buy books online and study the great teachers. Like there are a lot of great teachers, but I also think another way in is to do improv. A lot of people do improv, even if you're not someone who wants to entertain stand-up comedy, I think doing an improv group is really great. And I also tell people whenever possible, if you can work on a film, if you can do background work on a film, you're really getting on the job training then. So you can go to a set and really learn from anybody. And people on sets, we're all like in the circus, as it were. So everybody's happy to have a job, right? So you can really benefit a lot by learning and watching people at work if you can work on a film, an independent film or a commercial or anything like that. So those would be some of my suggestions for you, Dylan. Hope that helps.
Absolutely. Dylan, thank you. And from my 2 cents, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Thank you. Very good. Exactly. You got to really be patient. It's that old thing of, it does sound cliche, but if you do something that you love, you never work a day in your life. And, there's a lot of ups and downs in any entertainment career, just like in any career, really. But in show business, it can be very tough. So you have to have a thick skin. You have to really have confidence and believe in yourself, because there will be all of that, But you see that in every aspect of life, in corporate life, in the sports world, whatever walk of life you see people working and thriving. You really have to, deal with that. The seasons of change, as it were. So
indeed. So, Dylan, best of luck to you.
Yes, Dylan.
What do we have next from Garland? How has being in such iconic, culture-defining movies impacted your life?
Garland, it makes me feel 175 years old. Actually, it's very surreal. I've been really blessed. Thank you for your question. Since I was a kid, obviously, John Hughes really changed my life, guys. So what I always do is I tip my hat to John. If it wasn't for him, I really wouldn't be here. That old saying of standing on the shoulders of giants, it's really true. So whether that's our parents in life, teachers, coaches, people that you have a great opportunity to work with, people that can really, help develop you. And I was so fortunate as a kid to work with John, to work on Vacation in those films. And it showed me what was possible. So I think that really had a big impact on me as a kid. And it gave me the encouragement and the strength to move forward too.
Absolutely. Garland, thank you. Wonderful.
Thanks, Garland.
Yeah. And here's one from Jens. Is directing something you want to do again?
Yes. Good question, Jeff. Thank you very much for your question. Yeah, it is. I'm actually in the Directors Guild. I'm currently working I have business partners, and we're working on the financing for a production company, my company, which is called Manhattan Films. So I have 2 business partners working on that with me. And that is a goal, to start directing and producing and developing projects. I'm also producing a TV show with Robert Downey and his wife, Susan. And that show's called Singularity. So I'll have more great news on that soon for you guys. But that is a big focus for me. So, developing that show with the Downeys. I also have another project that I'm looking forward to directing. So yeah, and at the same time, to be very honest, it has to be bigger than yourself, your dreams, right? You got to be helping and in service of others. So it's really important for me in terms of starting a company that is my dual focus, that it'll give me more creative opportunities. And at the same time, I really want to help others, in the next generation and people of any generation. Just, there's so many great talented people out there. And I think with the streamers and the way we see our business, the business changing, that we all watch Netflix and the streaming services, there is more opportunity out there. So I think it's going to be very exciting in the years ahead for many of us, for all of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Is there a dream project? If an old school Hollywood mogul gave you unlimited resources, is there something in the back of your head you've always wanted to, I would make?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Well, it is the 2 that I'm working on right now. It's the film project is something that I wrote and I intend to direct and act in, but it's also an ensemble. And then the other one is the one with Downey. I'm really looking forward to us reuniting. It's a project that we both created, we wrote together, and we're going to be producing it with his company and also Sam Esmail, the great producer that did Mr. Robot and Homecoming.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just really excited. Those have been my 2 projects that I've been developing in terms of with my company focus. So that's where I'm heading with that.
Right on.
And at the same time, I'm an actor for hire, so I work on the Goldbergs. I've been doing that this year.
Yeah, you've been popping with that, and looks like you've been having a lot of fun with that.
Thank God, right? Success is when you're working, so thank God.
Indeed. Jens, thank you. Great one.
Thanks a lot.
What do we have next from Brian? How was it reprising the role of Rusty in the Goldbergs?
Well, thanks for your question, Brian. That's how this came up. It was really funny. So the gag, as you guys know, was the Goldbergs go to Disneyland. And that, like the story I was telling you, kind of ties to that earlier. Back then, we couldn't use Disneyland, right? So when we shot that scene, that was my first episode. That was about a year ago or so. We were at Disneyland. We got there about 7 a.m. We started shooting. And then by about 8 o'clock, all the Disney employees show up with their badges, and they're very polite, but they start talking to the crew. They go, well, guys, we're going to have to wrap this up because the crowds are, waiting to come in. This is pre-COVID. So we all decide, and there's literally like hundreds of people lined up. So we had to shoot that scene in about an hour. It was pretty quick, but a great experience. And then that led to them creating this role for me of Mr. Perrott, the high school counselor. And it's been one of the best experiences of my career working with that group. Wendy McClendon, Jeff Garland, Sean, the whole cast is really cool. Yeah, it's a fun show, and everybody's in a good mood too. When you do a comedy, it's a different thing. Everybody's like in really good spirits, and that show has that vibe. They have great writers. And
and not all shows have good vibes. They're good shows, but not all shows have good vibes on the set.
Any job, right? Some sets you work on, it's like it could be cool, but it's less dynamic. And this is one of those. It's a great experience because everybody's really cool on it. So
fantastic, Brian. Thank you. Great one. What do we have next? From either the same Brian or different Brian. Do you have a favorite line or quote from any of the films that you've been in?
Favorite line or quote? Well, see, this is the thing about John Hughes. Again, I got to tip my hat. He let me ad lib so much of it. So a lot of those, especially in the Hughes films, are stuff that I came up with, like the thing in the bar in Weird Science. We just kind of ad libbed. The Chicks Can't Hold Their Smoke, the Breakfast Club thing, that was ad libbed. John, that's what John was so cool. Like the scripts were so funny and tight. Everybody knew they had funny stuff and everything. But he was also great with that kind of collaboration. He would just let you just like wing it,
Yeah.
So that I've never had such a great experience in all the years I've worked since, with such a director. So he was the best. But maybe one of those from the John films.
Can I borrow your underwear?
Yeah. I look like a bobblehead, didn't I? I was 15. I was one of those 15-year-olds. I looked like I was 12 when I was 15. And then by the time I was 17, I grew like a foot and a half. So then I looked like, I guess.
Well, and your career kind of showed that. I mean, I think you're the only actor in history that played the nerdy type characters and then the jock characters.
Thanks, man. I honestly just looked at it as a kid. Like, I just want to keep doing this. And I was just so grateful that, as I said, that John gave me a career. So I just really looked at it like, I'm in it for the long haul, no pun intended, or all pun intended, I guess. Yeah.
And kudos for you for sometimes some actors don't get out of the teenage years.
I appreciate that. No, it's true. A lot of people have gone through a lot of rough times. I mean, for me, it was just a focus of wanting to continue to work and just having a thick skin and knowing that, I would keep working at it. My father used to say, keep chipping away. I just kept chipping away at it. And just creatively, what I found over the years, it wasn't like I was trying to avoid doing comedy. It was just really more like I had to become an actor, So, and I think a lot of the great actors I admire, like Downey, a lot of the greats. I mean, even Johnny Depp, someone like Ben Kingsley. I mean, Meryl Streep. They're all these greatest actors. I think they make a choice at some point to kind of go dark to light. You work on projects based on the quality of the great people you can meet and work with, and also the material. But I think it's nice to switch it up. I think Ben Kingsley does that a lot. So I've always enjoyed doing that. I like playing villains. I play whatever,
Yeah.
High school teachers these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dads and teachers and principal, that's all good.
Hey, Nate, a gig is a gig is a gig.
That's it, man. That's it.
Brian, thank you. What do we have next? Hey, here's one from Sherry. What inspired you to become an actor?
Hey, Sherry, what inspired me to be an actor? Well, as I said, it was kind of a hobby, but I think it was just being a goofy kid. I was one of those kids like many of us that, would do shows and goof off for the relatives. I was often like imitating my relatives and kind of doing like little mini stand-up when I was a kid, when I was like, it reminds me of that old Eddie Murphy movie, Raw. I really was like that. I was like a kid and I'd be at the weddings or funerals and my uncles would egg me on or my aunts, and I'd imitate them. I'd imitate family. So that's
it's always the uncles.
Yeah. It's like doing, just kind of performing for the family at weddings and funerals and goofing off. And I really remember doing that. I think that's what got me going. I think the laughter from my family, just laughing at me or with me or whatever the hell they were doing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Sherry, thank you.
A lot of us start,
Indeed. What do we have next? And here's one from Garland. What is your favorite role that you have played so far?
My favorite role, Garland. Okay. I got to say, I'm always thinking forward. So to me, it's like I'm so pumped to see Halloween Kills. I really felt great about that. I mean, I felt really blessed that they gave me such a great opportunity. It's really like a hero role, because along with Jamie and Judy Greer and Andy Matichek, we're kind of taking on Myers in this one. It's really all, just pedal to the metal, killer, really all out slasher film. So I just felt so honored to be stepping into a small part of that franchise, and they couldn't be cooler, really. I mean, like they're some of the smartest guys I think in the business. I love David Gordon Green and Danny. Yeah. And Jamie Lee Curtis couldn't be cooler. I mean, she's like what everybody thinks she is. She's just super chill, down to earth, and really really great energy, really loving to people on set. She was really cool. So, just to be a part of that, I was so stoked. So that's the one I'm probably the most excited about.
Right on. I'm looking forward to it. Garland, thank you. Cool one.
Thanks, John.
Hey, what do we have next from Daniel? What is your personal favorite movie to watch?
Good call. You know what? My favorite over the years, my favorite director is Scorsese. So when I was a kid growing up, like my father and I, our favorite film was Raging Bull. That's really still one of my favorites. So I would say anything by Scorsese is probably at the top of my list. And I know a lot of people say that, but to me, he's just such a dynamic filmmaker. And growing up, I loved all those collaborations with De Niro, all the films he did over the years, So he's my favorite filmmaker, I think.
And again, Scorsese wasn't just the blood and pasta stuff either. I mean, you got King of Comedy, which people are starting to re-examine again, and realizing, oh yeah, we didn't get it the first time. Now we're
a great point. No, that's an excellent film, right? It's like a black comedy. No, I agree. That's a great film. He really is great. I mean, all the obvious great ones I love. Spielberg's been great for a lot of different types of films. I mean, Kubrick, obviously, all those kind of classic, sort of monolith directors. I love all those great filmmakers.
And you got close to working with Kubrick, right?
Yeah, no, I did on that on Full Metal Jacket. But even a film like we just watched last night, Lucia and I watched Cherry, the new Russo brothers movie, which is an Apple Plus film, and that was really interesting too. So I think that's what's so cool about streaming. You're seeing great quality television that's migrated. A lot of filmmakers, as we know, migrated to television and streamers. So I think there's so much great product out there. There's so many people doing great work.
Absolutely.
What we now call content.
Yes, content. We got content. And this goes with Scott. Any fond memories off the set from filming in Chicago?
Oh, Scott, thanks for your question. Yeah, I have nothing but great memories. Well, here's another kind of John Hughes story reminds me of, because when I was growing up working with him, he was so cool. His wife, Nancy, who unfortunately passed on about a year ago, they were just like a second family. So John's two sons, Jamie and John Jr., they literally look like two Macaulay Culkins. I mean, they just literally look like Macaulay. And I was like kind of like the older brother in the family. I was like their third kid. So he was great. On the weekends, I would literally go and stay with the Hughes family. Or John would do things like pick me and Molly up and we'd go to record stores. He'd take us to see blues music. We went to great places in Chicago like Kingston Mines and saw Buddy Guy and Junior Wells. I mean, we would do these great, incredible things because that was John. He was always kind of, and this is something I want to say to aspiring artists out there, the idea of staying inspired. John Hughes was really very much like that. He always had music around him. He was always studying the great comics. Like, I'll give you a perfect example, and I love telling this story. When he writes Home Alone, as John would tell me, you got to write what you know about, right? But he was a huge fan of like Laurel and Hardy, all the old black and white film duos and comedy teams. So the whole gimmick of him kind of capturing and setting a trap for Daniel Stern's character and Joe Pesci comes from just that. So there's John. John would watch those films on the weekend, right? And then he gives that action to Macaulay in Home Alone, for example, right? To kind of set the trap for the bad guys. But that's how brilliant he was. So he was always feeding himself. He always knew everything, all the hot bands that were happening. He was very aware of British music and that whole scene. So we would go to record stores, we'd go to concerts. He was just an amazing guy. He really, really great.
Yeah, the previous panel question for that group was, if you could travel anywhere in time, where would you go? People were saying stuff, and I said, I'd love to go back to the 80s, back to a record store, and look through albums and buy an album just because it had a cool album cover.
Yeah, man, all you millennials out there, man, you guys don't know what you were missing. It was pretty cool. I mean, honestly, it was a cool thing. A record store was really like a place to meet, as we know, and it's like, well, file sharing, that all changed. I don't want to sound like an old guy, but record stores really were great. And Chicago, that was another thing. That was a great place for record stores. So much culture in Chicago, so, and you can't get a bad meal in Chicago either.
I finally found that out a year ago. I finally, right before COVID hit, I was at a convention. And I was finally able to.
It's like New York. It's such a great city for food, man. You can get anything, it's really a great place. So I'm really looking forward. I'm actually producing a film this summer that I'm doing called The Class. I'm going to be acting and one of the producers on it. So I'm going back to Chicago. Really excited.
What's your favorite comfort food?
Comfort food? Oh man, I'm all carb, like meat and potatoes, man. I love like macaroni and cheese, fried chicken, burgers. I love all that stuff. Yeah, total American boy on that level. I love all that stuff.
Right on.
I eat healthy too. My wife, we do juices and she juices a lot. We make sure we eat the greens,
Yeah.
Mom pounded that in my head growing up. Gotta have your greens.
Yeah, and at our age, we should be.
You're being kind. You're younger than me.
Not by much. And Scott, thank you. Great question.
Thanks, Scott.
Hey, what we have next? Hey, this comes from Patty. What's on your bucket list?
Hey, Patty. First of all, I know everybody uses that term these days, but I hate saying bucket list. I know we're all going to die, but I don't like thinking bucket list. I don't know. What's on my list of things?
What's on your agenda of things?
Yeah, what's on my living agenda as long as I live?
Yeah.
I think more travel. I think travel, like a lot of people, that excites us. I definitely would love to go to Egypt. I don't know. There's a lot of places I want to see. I want to see Japan. I've never been to Japan.
That'd be good. Yeah.
Yeah, and in terms of like the long-term goal is, keep working and build my company.
Right on.
Exciting. Yeah.
Absolutely. Patty, thank you. Great one. What do we have next from Andre? Who was your mentor growing up?
Great question. Well, John Hughes was certainly one of them. My stepfather, who raised me, my mom's, remarried when I was about 12. And my stepfather really raised my sister and I. He was incredible. Both my parents really were incredible sources of strength. And really gave me that foundation, kind of New York City, East Coast upbringing. My mom was very tough, Irish, Italian, Catholic mom. She didn't take any BS, as it were. So my parents were really, really instrumental, especially in the early phase of my career when that all started happening, because they were really right there to help me stay on course, and always give me good advice. And so those people. And then over the years, Downey we've been friends for so long, and particularly with this project I'm working on with he and his wife and Team Downey, their company. He's been always been a great friend, And then I have a couple other buddies too, friends of mine that don't have nothing to do with the industry. So I think that's always, for all of us, it's important to know who your friends are, right? And life has really showing you who they are, because they're there when you need them, So
yeah.
Definitely.
And I think it doesn't hurt either to have friends outside your immediate business or passions or everything else.
Yeah.
It's good to have, like a well-balanced diet, it's good to have well-balanced variety of friends.
Definitely. And I also just want to say, too, that I think, there were so many mentors, because in every work experience, I've done over 100 projects or whatever it is in all these years, and there are people who have done 3 times that. But I just think that it's such a collaboration. It's such an incredible experience that you're really learning from every aspect. You're learning from the sound guy, you're learning from the crew, you're learning from the directors. And again, because I started so young, I think that I was always really attuned to that, so I was always and being mentored by people, which was cool.
Again, I think starting when you were young, it was okay to look curious and stare at the grips or the lighting guys, everything else. Like I feel like I'm a professional as an adult.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want anybody to know I'm new. Go up to somebody, hey, what are you doing there?
Yeah, you know what? Somebody had a great quote I was listening to. It was really great. I know who it was. I was listening to Mark Maron's podcast, and he had John C. Reilly, great actor that we all love, right? This guy's awesome. He's done so much great work over the years and such a humble, down-to-earth guy. He had a great way of putting it. He goes, I was listening to his podcast last week, and he said it's like the first day of school on every set. You know what I mean? So you're always kind of either you're playing a part and you're coming in late and you feel like you're late to school, or even if you're starting there and you're in the project from start to finish, it's always kind of like the first day of school. I thought that was a great way of describing it. So that's cool. And also I think the analogy of being in the circus or joining the circus, that totally applies. Anybody in show business, anybody that works in entertainment of any fashion, can probably attest to that, So,
absolutely.
That's absolutely.
Cool. Andre, thank you. Great one. What's next? From Anonymous, out of all your characters, which one would you say you have the most in common with?
Wait a minute, is this the anonymous group, like anonymous with the mask?
No, just someone in the chat room that didn't put a name on there.
I'm just kidding. So it's an anonymous. Okay, got it. So what was the question again? I'm sorry. What was
out of all your characters, which one would you say you have the most in common with any character you played in your career?
Of all the characters? That's a good question. Well, I think Farmer Ted was pretty much me then. The geek, the Farmer Ted roll 16 candles, there wasn't much acting going on. I think it was just, I was so happy just to be John Hughes's, little squirrel monkey. I don't know what the hell I was. He would he would wind me up. He really was. He was so funny. We would conspire. The scenes were so funny to do as a kid. I just remember just wanting to make him laugh, And then in between takes, I'd run to the sidelines and talk to John. And if I came up with an idea, he was like this with all of us. He was so cool. He'd be like, yeah, try that, and you'd improvise some line. you get a laugh, and so that was a big one for me. So probably 60. Yeah, Farmer Ted is probably as close to me as you could get at that age.
and to the credit of you and Hughes and everything else, Ted was a realistic, grounded sort of a geeky kid. He wasn't with the big thick glasses. It wasn't Eddie Deason, who made a career.
Or the culture. See, that's how psychic John Hughes was. I'm like, this guy, why is he calling it the geek? And I'm like, there you go. 30 years later, geeks rule the world now, right?
Absolutely. So anonymous, thank you for that. Oh, what's next? Hey, here's one from Vanessa. Can you tell us about your role in Hysteria?
Oh, that was funny. That was like I felt like I was, hi, Vanessa. I felt like I was shooting remember This Is Spinal Tap? It was really funny. To do a movie about an 80s rock band, it was really pretty much a trip. And when I got to the set, all I can remember is the cast. They were cool guys. They were all playing, the members of Def Leppard, and they all had their Spinal Tap 80s metal wigs on.
Yeah.
And they were like, as a group, like practicing their air guitar together. It was really kind of a funny movie. This is in the era when VH1 was making movies back in the day. And I was hired to play Mutt Lange, the producer of the band. And I had my 80s wig too, man. And I just remember thinking like, this is a fun gig, It was like real quick. I shot at Montreal. And like I said, it felt like shooting Spinal Tap. It's kind of like, in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they wanted the movie to be more serious, but it was a comedy when you got there.
We're gonna go. No. Yeah, better come on.
You got hair metal wigs. You're going. This is good. You can't get better than this.
Very true. Vanessa, thank you. Fun one. And what's next? From Andre. What did you like most about being on SNL?
What I like most? Well, that is incredible. It's such a rush, guys, because as you know, we still watch it. We all watch SNL, right? It's such an institution in our country. I just love it so much. I think just the live experience, like even if you didn't have any good sketches and you knew it were like, I kind of have a whack week, like nothing really good coming, even still, it was such an incredible experience because every week you'd have some great rock band or great artists, incredible musicians, the writing staff, again, like joining the circus, because you're preparing 6 days a week for that job that you then do twice on Saturday. There's a lot of people who know that. You do a show at 7:30 or 8 for one audience. Then they shuffle that audience out, and you do it all over again live. So it was just such a thrill. And like I said, even if you didn't have any good sketches, just being a part of the show. And one of my favorite moments was at the end of every episode when we all go on stage at the end. And that sense, again, the sense of camaraderie, and we got through another week, because it's very tough. It's not like 30 Rock, that's supposed to be kind of behind the scenes at SNL.
Yeah.
It's a great show and very funny, but it's actually a lot more competitive than that. You feel like probably more like people that work in the theater business, and I've done some, limited theater over the years, but it's that kind of energy. Like everybody's working, helping each other, and behind the stage, on and off, before and after the show. You know what I mean? That sense of camaraderie was really there. So it was great. And even like I said, when the shows weren't even that funny, you still had such a rush doing it. So
no. It's the past several years people have talked about SNL, and it's like it's not an easy gig. It's not an easy gig at all. And you were 17, weren't you?
Yeah, I was just a pup. It was all those years.
Yeah,
it was the 11th season. Now it's in its 45th. But just hats off for a second to all the great talent, like the men and the women. Like honestly, there've been so many great people. I mean, especially, and in recent years, I love what is her name? What's her name? Who's on SNL now? The blonde lady. Oh, she's so good.
Oh, I'm trying to blank too.
What is her name, guys? I'm blanking. This is the same woman. Very good. Try to avoid these.
Yeah. I still think of Kristen Wiig as the new girl on SNL, but she did her time and now she's doing features.
Exactly right. It's like the new Kristen. I'm forgetting her name.
But she does all the impressions and she does a lot of musical numbers.
Really great. I really do. I love them. I love what they're doing, and it's such a thing that we all love watching, even when it's in kind of developmental years. It's incredible. Such a great show.
And for whatever it's worth, from me, I think your season and your castmates is undervalued.
Thank you, man. Thanks. It was just a fun show to be a part of, And Lord's incredible. He really orchestrates the whole thing. He really created that whole format. Lorne Michaels, amazing guy,
Mm-hmm.
So,
Kathleen McKinnon.
Thank you, Kate McKinnon.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Kate
much.
McKinnon. Yeah, Kate McKinnon. Yes, right.
Thank
right.
you. She's just
The font on my screen here is really tiny, so Kate McKinnon. There we go.
She's just brilliant. Everybody. There's so many great men and women on the show over the years. I just love it, and I love seeing people do well on it. It's such a great thing,
Absolutely, yeah.
Kate McKinnon, she's a genius. I love her, man. Yeah.
Fair enough, Todd. Andre, thank you. I think we have time for one more, maybe two more. Let's see what we can find out. Let's roll the dice. From Jennifer, did you get to keep anything from any of the sets that you've been on?
Hold on, I have Molly's underwear. Hold on one second, Jim.
Okay.
Do I keep the? You know what? I don't usually. I keep the scripts myself, and then sometimes I keep the seat backs. I got a collection of those. The director's chair.
Oh yeah.
What I'm saving them for, but yeah, I keep those. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Over the years, I think when I was a kid, John Hughes, I think they gave us the wardrobe when we did Weird Science. So back in the day, I had those clothes. I think I wore those for like another 4 or 5 years after.
Yeah, that's about the shelf life of that.
You know what I'm saying?
Style. Yeah.
My 80s suits on, but usually that's about it. I usually keep the script. I don't really keep too many props or anything like that. But the seat backs are kind of cool too. So.
No, those are cool. And so you have all your Hughes scripts?
I do. I have those. Yeah, I keep some from different projects, that matter to me. Yeah.
Very nice. So I think we could do one more. So Jennifer, thank you for yours. And let's see if we get a really fun one to go out on. And this is going to come from Robert. How did it feel to play a bully in Edward Scissorhands after playing a nerd in the John Hughes movies?
Thanks, Robert. Thanks for your question. Well, you know what? That sprang from just like having a meeting with Tim Burton, who, as we all know, is just such a great artist, such a great director. So that's how that developed. I was able to take a meeting with him. And I think at that time, because I remember thinking that Tim must find this kind of funny, because I was coming off of the John Hughes films and playing certain type of characters that were funny and, the kind of nerdish characters. And then with that, I think it was kind of interesting for him to kind of flip it. He saw me as playing this bully character. And also I was a bigger guy. I was I think 22 at the time when I did it. I'd grown into, a bigger guy. But that was an incredible collaboration to get to work closely with Tim Burton and Johnny Depp. Huge respect for those guys. I mean, they had that thing that John and I had where it was like almost an unspoken communication. And they went on to make such great films after Scissorhands too, right? I mean,
oh yeah.
All these films that they've done, Dark Shadows. I mean, every one of Tim Burton's films, I think they're really works of art. I really love them.
I'm very partial to Ed Wood.
Ed was
just because I loved the original Ed Wood and Martin Landau just knocked it out of the park as Bella Lugosi. Yes,
I had the good fortune. I knew Martin. He was a good man, Martin Landau, and I had a couple. I went to lunch with him a few times. He was a great guy. I'd ask him stories about working, and he loved that experience. I want to curse. When he's cursing out Ed Wood, and Ed Wood is hilarious. He's like, "Fuck you, Eddie," or whatever he said.
Yeah. And he was. I mean, he was acting coach for a lot of. He was Jack Nicholson's acting coach. That's how far his career went.
He was such a cool guy. But that film was a classic, right? It's just like a piece of Hollywood history. Yeah, Mank is another one. I don't know if you guys have seen Mank yet, the new David Fincher film. It's not a comedy, but it's again black and white. It was another film that kind of sheds a light on Hollywood filmmakers. But Ed Wood was great. I love Tim Burton.
Yes, absolutely. So, and Robert, thank you. That was a great question. Anthony, this has been absolutely awesome. Any final words for our audience before we go?
I just want to thank everybody who spent time today and also our team at GalaxyCon and yourself, my friend. Thank you very much to everybody that took the time to be here today. And I hope you guys had some fun with it. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
It's been my absolute pleasure to serve you today. Thank you again for joining us on the GalaxyCon virtual stage. Thank you to our audience for joining us today. And thank you for all your great questions. Hope to see you all again soon. Until then, bye-bye, everyone. Take care. And please keep washing those hands.